Did you know that you don't need a bank to buy a house? No, you don't. Meyer de Waal, he's a director of My Budget Fitness and Rent to Buy, joins me now at the desk to discuss alternative and innovative methods to buy property. Really? I don't need a bank? Why? How so?
Well, a lot of people depend on a bank to go and buy a property. If you don't have a cash, you go to a bank and you apply for a home loan, and about 50% of all home loans are declined. So we say, what's plan B? And plan B is that you've already got a property. You've got a buyer, you've got a seller. So why don't you do like a peer-to-peer transaction where the two parties meet with each other and they decide, let's put the bank about maybe 18 months, maybe 12 months down the line. And then we reapproach the bank, because by that time we may have had a better credit rating, a better affordability, and we may have saved up towards a deposit. So you're looking at those three criteria to help you to actually convince the bank to get a home loan. So we say that make use of rent to buy. There's also the installment sale agreement concept, where you actually can pay off a property with the seller over a fixed period of time. So any of these two types of transactions you can actually use. And interesting enough, that the installment sale has been coming since 1968 and was recently almost like redusted and rediscovered.
Yes.
And we look at either rent to buy or installment sale to actually enable you to buy a property without a bond.
So let me understand this. The first option would be to try and build up your credit record. Within the next 2 years, reapproach your bank. If it doesn't work, would you then default and fall into the second category where you do an installment sale?
Now you start from day one.
Okay.
When you approach a bank for a home loan, they will look at your credit rating, number one. They look at your history. They look at how you've paid your accounts. And if you have got late payments, maybe you're over indebted like a lot of people are, and then you won't pass the first hurdle. That's your credit profile. Okay. The second one will be your affordability. So they work out roughly about 50% of your income. And if you can meet that towards a bond repayment, then we'll say that you've passed the test. Then they actually go into your affordability very thoroughly. They dissect your income and expenses. A lot of people put on the list that they only spend 800 Rand a month on food. But when you start looking at the bank statement, you see there's Nando's and Kentucky and all that stuff, and then they add up to 1,200. So when it goes to the affordability test, a lot of people fail this because they don't have an actual understanding of your real affordability. So if you pass those two tests, normally a bank would look at your home loan, but then they start looking at it very finely.
Is this a new concept? You know, we talk about alternative ways and an innovative way, and what has been the take-up?
Well, as I said, prior to the National Credit Act coming in 2007, one person said you just had to have a heartbeat and then the bank would give you a bond. Then all of a sudden the tables were turned, and the National Credit Act came in, the global financial crisis, and people stopped getting bonds like if you just applied. And all of a sudden you had to find innovative ways. So I started with 2007 looking at ways how we can assist people to buy property, because investing in property is still one of the best ways of producing a secure financial future for yourself. But if you even look back at 1968, when the Installment Sale Act was promulgated, that is when the days when you had to put an investment with a building society or a bank, and against that investment they would give you a loan. So it was still difficult then to raise a home loan, and therefore the installment sale concept was integrated, and through that actually the installment sales come in. But when the National Credit Act came in and messed up the concept of lending money in installment sale, and all of a sudden that dwindled down. A lot of people, it was so easy to get a home loan that they never looked at the concept of renting with an option to buy first, and also the installment sale concept. So we dusted this again, we put it back on the shelf, and we also added a lot of extra things, because we realized that a person that's renting to buy, his affordability was unfit in the eyes of a bank. So we also added education. So we're adding home ownership education. We're also giving a person a report at the end of every month. How is he progressing? Because remember, he came to the bank budget unfit.
Yes.
And we've got to change him into a budget-fit person. Now that takes time. You need to change his spending behavior. That's why we developed a tool, what we call Mobile to Budget. And through this tool, you can track every rand that you spend. A lot of people tell us, I don't want to know what I spend, but we say this is the whole essence of when you go back to the bank, you've got a history of spending.
So
You've got to show that.
Mayor, with the, you've mentioned here that it's because the consumer is very much under pressure. We are in an interest rate hiking cycle.
That's
so
right.
This would make consumers definitely look at this option. And you've given us a stat. You said that 3,000 submissions are made to a bank in terms of home loan applications, but only really 800 of them ever get processed. So
Absolutely.
Is this a process thing, or is it just?
Well, we're in a privileged situation that a lot of banks share information with us. So we get the volumes that come in, and we see that the banks are going into, because of multiple submissions, one bond originator would submit to 5 different banks. Now the bank has got to go through all the steps to qualify this person. At the end of the day, the person will select, maybe I want to go with that bank or maybe with that bank because they're going to give me a little bit of a different interest rate or better terms, and they take one out of the 5 applications that came through. So the banks have become like a sausage machine process factory. And at the end of the day, they basically have automized everything. So if you don't meet their automized scorecard, they chuck you out. And they throw you in the dustbin, and nobody actually wants to pick you up. And we say, hey, this is plan B. Let's take plan B, and plan B is rent to buy, because we've got the property, we've got the seller, we've got the buyer. Let's just park the bank 18 months down the line, then we go back to the bank.
All you need is those 3 key ingredients, and it's good to know that there is a plan B if you want to own your own property. Meyer, thanks so much. That was Meyer de Waal. He's the director of My Budget Fitness and Rent to Buy.